Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be making a Kraken spiced rum sign. Now I did have a look around for an SVG of this logo, but I couldn't really find one anywhere. So I've just taken a couple of images off of Google, and I'm going to take those into Inkscape and use the trace bitmap option to try and trace those. It's pretty easy to use this option. I do have a video on that if you want to check that out. But basically, clicking on that, and we're going to do a trace. You can see here that the lettering isn't really that good there, so I think the looks pretty good. So I'm going to keep that and just recreate the bottom half of the font. So basically just draw on a box over that. You can select the and the box and by holding down shift, and then just go to path and difference. And that's how you basically just end up with the. Now I have found another font. It's not exactly the same font as the logo pictured here, but it is close enough, and it's close enough for me. It's only going in my pool room. I think if it's side by side, you'd probably pick that it's a different font, but it is, it is pretty close. So I'm just going to go with that. The font is called. Let me have a look here. Franklin Gothic Dimmy, I think it is. And again, yeah, it's not the exact same font, and you could play around and find the exact same one, but for me, this is just going to work. So I'm just going to recreate basically that logo, and I'll just show you how I do that here. So I've changed the lettering to red just so that I can see it. I'm going to make it the same height and stretch that out a little bit, but I'm actually going to go through and space out those letters. And you can do that by clicking on the font tab or that little A there on the left-hand side, and putting the cursor in front of the letters. You can hold down the Alt button on the keyboard, and using the left and right arrows, you can space those letters over. So yeah, it's just putting that cursor in the front of them there, holding Alt, and then pushing the left or right arrow key to space that over. So in this case, it's the right arrow key. And I'm just going to basically line that up. So you can see there that the font is not the same. There are, some differences in that font, but again, it's pretty close, and it's close enough for me. So I'm just going to go ahead with that. So I'll change that to black. I'm basically going to do this logo so you can obviously see the difference between them. You can see that the one that I'm doing too is a little bit thicker. The font is a little bit thicker. And again, I could have looked around for one that was, exactly the same, but as I said, this one's pretty good. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing here with the black spiced. I'll make that coloured red, and again, I'll just sort of scroll that down to the size of that, and just in the height wise there, space it out a little bit, and then I'll use the same thing as using that Alt and spacing over those letters. So just zoom in a little bit there. So you can see that cursor. So you just take that cursor all the way back to in front of the L, hold down Alt, and then right arrow key across, and that's how you sort of space that. So I'll just get this lined up. And as I was saying, I did look around on Google and a couple of other places trying to find an actual SVG of this, but I couldn't really find anything that was good that I could just use as it was. So this was basically the next best thing. So I'll move this up. You can see it's starting to take shape there. As I said, it is a little bit different, but I'm sure once it all comes together at the end, it's not going to really look any different by eye. So again, I'll change the colour of that just so that I can see the size of it on top of the other letters. And then again, just respacing those letters. Looks pretty good. So again, I'll change that to black, and then I'll move that up. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much basically the logo redone there. I'm just going to go ahead there. I'm going to line all that up and save it. And that's what we'll be getting cut on the laser. And then we'll jump over and do the background of this that I can cut out on the CNC. All right, so with the font all done, I'm going to jump in now and do the background of the sign. I'm going to do that the same way. So again, I've just taken an image off of Google, and I'm going to jump in here and do that bitmap trace. And I'll just basically show you again how to do that. So it's just going to path and then trace bitmap. and hit that update button. So you've got the plus and minus button there. Sometimes you just need to play around with that to get the best image that you can get out of it. And you can see here that the outside of these lines are still a little bit sketchy as opposed to the original one there. So I'm just going to play around here a little bit just till I find one that's close. Basically what I want to get out of the background of this sign is just the shape. So I don't need the writing or any of the lines going around it or anything like that. I'm just after the actual shape. So I'm just going to muck around with this a little bit until I get the one that I want to use, and then I'm going to put a stroke around that, but I'll show you how to do that as we move forward here. So again, with that little plus and minus symbol there, you can, the higher you make the number, the more prominent or darker I guess the image will become, and using the minus like I'm doing here, you can sort of take a little bit of that away. So again, it's just a matter of playing around with it and seeing which one best suits. So you can still see there it's a little bit, so I'm going to bring this down a little bit more. So that one's not too bad. You can see that the curves are a little bit better, a little bit closer to that one. So that one's not too bad, but I might just do another one. I'll go down a little bit more, 320. I'll have a look at that one. So you can see that one's actually taken a little bit too much away, I think. So I think the top one here is probably going to be the best one at the moment. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm just after the shape. So yeah, I think I'll go with that top one. So I can get rid of those, bring this one in. Okay, and then yeah, it's just basically a matter of what we're going to do is we're going to go to the break apart option, and then we can just basically take those layers off. You can see here I drag them off, and I can just delete those as I drag them off. So again, I just want the actual shape of the sign. And so that one there, and then basically I can get rid of all of this. So now that I've got the shape of the sign, it's just a matter of creating a stroke around it. So to do that, I just click on the selections tab. I'll just show you too, you can click on that edit node tool and you can make little adjustments to them if you're not quite happy. But again, this is pretty good for what I'm doing, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. So I'll just get that into the middle there. So you've got a fill and stroke tab. So I'm just going to go stroke, and I'm going to change the color. I'll change it to red. Red stands out a bit more so you can see it. And then you've also got stroke style, and here you can increase the thickness of the stroke. So I'm just going to make that a little bit thicker. Just to, yeah, about there will do. And then you're just going to go path, and you're going to go stroke to path, and that then just makes that outline now a path, so it can be moved around. Okay, so then basically select the whole thing and just go to ungroup, and that will then break that middle section apart, and then we can then get rid of that. So there we have it. We just got the outline. That's all I really needed from that background or that sign, or that image, sorry. So I'm just going to import the text that we just created just so that I can size it up. This is actually going to be cut on the CNC and the laser machine. So I'm going to cut the background out on the CNC machine and then the front part on the laser machine. So the background is just going to be 9mm MDF, and the font or lettering on the front is just going to be cut out of 3mm MDF. So I'm just going to size this up to make sure that it's all going to be, so as I save this file, it'll save exactly as it is, so the sizing and everything will be correct. So that looks pretty good there. Pretty happy with that. So yeah, so again, that background part there will be cut on the CNC, so we'll jump over into easel, and I'll get that all set up in there, and then we can move forward on to the next step. One other thing I wanted to just show you here too, or point out, is that because this is going to be cut on the CNC machine, I do need that to just be a single outline. So you can see here, if you go into outline mode in Inkscape, there is 2 lines there. So it's just a matter of selecting that, and again using that break apart option, and it'll just split those into 2 individual lines, and then you can then remove the center line, or the inside line I should say. So just click on that and click delete, and if we go back to normal mode, you can just see that that'll just be black. And that's the one that's going to be saved to go onto the CNC machine, so we can cut the outside of it, and then the top one, the original one, for the laser. So yeah, we'll jump over to Easel now and have a look at setting up the job there. Alright guys, so here we are, we're in Easel now. I've got my job set up, so I've just got 700 by 700 by 10 millimeters. It's 10mm MDF, so the size of my bit that I'm using. My cut settings, 800, because I can speed that up if I need to, and 5mm per pass, so it's going to do 2 passes at that depth. So we'll just go ahead and import the SVG file that we made. Okay, so that's it there. So you can see at the moment that it's set to pocket it out, so we'll have to go in and change that. But again, I will just show it's set up for 10mm. So down here on this tab, you can click cut outside of path. And we're just going to click on that one, and that way it will go through and it'll cut that out. So that one's pretty basic. It's pretty easy to set up. Again, there are some little tabs on there that you have so that when you do cut it out, that it keeps the material in place. And I usually just do those at 4mm in length and 2mm high. And I just make sure that they're not in any curves or bends or anything like that, so they're easy to chop out with the knife at the end of it. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much about it for that one. So we'll jump over to the CNC and we'll get it cut out. Alright, now that that's all cut out, I'm just going to go through and give this a paint. First of all, I'm just going to give it a quick hit with just a sanding pad, so just a fine sanding pad, nothing too crazy. Just give that a bit of a sand around. And then I'm just going to paint this backing board in black. I'm just going to use a roller to do that and just sort of, yeah, put the paint on and roll it on. So, yeah, pretty easy, pretty straightforward, making sure that I do all the edges as well. And, yeah, I'll get this painted up and then we'll jump over to the next step. Alright guys, here we are just in Lightburn. So I'm just going to import that design that I created earlier on. Just bring that up here. So this is the entire design. I'm just going to change the color of this to black because black is my cut color in Lightburn. So you can see that I've got it set at 12mm a second and 40% power. I've got the air assist turned on. So I'll just select this. So this is going to cut out this whole image. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll move this up a little bit, get it to where I want it to cut on the machine itself. And then I'll just go ahead and save this. And then we'll jump. I'll show you a preview here so you can just see how long it's going to take. So it's going to be about 15 minutes. It's all set up there. I can bring this open so I can just show you here that it's 12mm a second, 40% power, minimum's 35, one pass. So yeah, pretty straightforward that one. So I'll go ahead and I'll save this and then we'll jump over to the laser cutter and we'll get it cut out. Alright guys, so here we are at the laser cutter. So I'm just going to pop in that USB stick into the U-disc slot there. And I'll just bring it up to the controller here. And yeah, just basically go in, select a file, then you can scroll across to the right there to the U-Disk tab, click on that, and then you can click the Read U-Disk option. And this will basically just bring up everything that I've got saved on the USB, and you can basically just filter through to find the design that you've put on. Normally it's right at the beginning there. I'm not too sure why it's all the way back here. Normally it's the first one that I click down, but nonetheless, it'll be in here. Just keep scrolling. Should be on this page. Yeah, there it is there. So once you've selected that, you can click across and click copy to memory, and that'll basically just copy that design over to the memory of the controller. So once you've selected that, you can just hit enter and then escape, and you can see that it sits in there. So I'll just hit escape again and hop out of that, and then you can just click file and you can select that there. And once you select that, you can see that it brings it up there and shows you the speed and the power and also the design. So I'll just I've got a piece of 3mm MDF in here, so I'm just going to flick on this light here and do a quick frame. So I set the origin and then hit the frame button, and we'll let that frame out just so I can see exactly where it's going to lay, and we'll jump in and get it all cut out. Alright guys, this one's just about to finish up now, so I just wanted to take a second to just point out that border. So this is the one that I did in Inkscape earlier on, where I did the stroked path, and yeah, it looks like the border actually turned out really well after going through that process, so pretty happy with that. So yeah, I just let this run out. So it actually took about 15 minutes to cut out this whole design, but it's almost done now, so I'm just going to let this finish off. We'll quickly pull it out, have a bit of a look, and then we'll jump over to getting some painting done on it. Alright, so that's all done, so give this a bit of a shake out. How good's that? I love this machine, it's so good, so easy. Everything looks really good, nice clean cuts. So yeah, again, another one that I'm really happy with. So yeah, we'll jump over, get some prep work done, and we'll get this thing painted. Alright guys, moving on to painting the font or the lettering. I'm just going to be painting those white, but first of all I'm just going to put down some double-sided tape here. So it's just an old piece of acrylic that I've got, and putting some double-sided tape down on there. The reason for doing that basically is that once I start rolling the letters, they tend to sort of move around a fair bit. So I figured this would be a good way of doing it, just getting them to stick in place while I roll over it with the roller. It's quick, it's easy, and yeah, I've just found this to be the easiest method as far as painting small letters and things like that. Alright, so now that all that's done, we can go ahead and start gluing everything together. So I'm just going to glue on the border first, and I've also kept the little insert that the letters were cut out of, and I'm going to put that inside the border here so that I can use that to help align where the lettering glues onto that backing board there, so it's all nice and straight and in place. So yeah, I'm just using some Tarzan grip glue here. It's just like a gel super glue, I guess. And yeah, we'll go ahead and get that glued up and see how it looks at the end. Alright, so it's finally all glued together, and this is the end result. So it came out pretty good. I'm really happy with it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and yeah, thanks again for watching. Cheers.